Morning, folks. This is a vlog and it's going to be kind of long winded and such. Probably not to what you're interested, so there is not going to be any, spilled tea on here or anything like that. No. This is more about what I plan on doing and what is going on in my life, more or less, of my career as such. What I'm planning on doing and trying to see forth of making this a reality. So without any more introductions about this, and to get that out of the way, let's begin. Remember, I did warn you, so yeah, if you're bored with this kind of thing, watch anything else. Don't watch this. Don't even bother to bitch about it, because it's a waste of your life. So anyways, thing I want to do is to start up is two different fundraisers. Both of them pretty much is for the same kind of goal, but they're actually two different things. So one fundraiser is going to be on Kickstarter. That's going to be for kickstarting a graphic novel that I want to do. A little more into that is this. I don't know which graphic novel I want to do, but I'm going to leave you the options about what would be the more interesting thing about it, of what one I should do. I might take your suggestion or to tell you later what I'm going to do. So anyways, with that, the graphic novels I have in mind is otaku manga. That's one of them. Let's discuss about what otaku manga is. It's basically a long drawn out story that I've been writing for years and drawing for years and whatnot. Is a slice of life, has no fantastic nonsense into it. I try to make it as real as possible, as much of reality into it as possible, but a lot of it is based off of what I've learned about what it is to be in Japan and how the Japanese society is and company cultures and whatnot, and what I've experienced in my own life. So it's a story that is about a group of misfit characters that try to find out who and what they are and go for their aspirations in life. It starts off with two main characters, a guy named Aerodynamic and a female character named Crescent, and it starts off with their adventure, and there is some deviation stories that pertains of the other main characters. So yeah, there are all these other characters within the story. They have their own life and their own history, whatever. They end up being friends and whatnot, and they learn and grow, and yeah. It's pretty much like a lot of slice of life stories. And you could say that it's like this or it's like that. Yeah. Because some of these particular things, as I was writing it, I did was incorporated those aspects into it. That's why it's kind of like it, because I was already writing it that way in the first place. So, no, that's just how it is. I don't want to go into greater detail about it. I might do a whole video about otaku manga to describe more of them. The other story is an older story that I've written when I was in college in the early mid-90s, which is called Misfits. It's about another group of misfits, but really it starts off with a character that escapes with an experimental spaceship, and the spaceship itself is sentient. It has its own AI, and it's very similar to Doctor Who and also with Red Dwarf, because a lot of it I kind of base it off of Macross and Red Dwarf, more or less. This kind of nonsensory. I wanted to have it to be an adventure story, but also comedic. And one of the other aspects of this is that it's very much like Tenchi Muyo. That was one of the series I enjoyed reading way back when. So that, and also watching the anime series, it inspired me of this storyline. Originally it was an anime. It was originally just an anime project that I was creating in college, which later I decided to do was have it as a graphic novel. Because the voice actors didn't want to actually do what they wanted to actually be in it. They said yes, and then they just ditched. It's like, oh, that sounds great. And you never show up. Kind of fucked up. So, the story goes along with the main character who steals a ship, doesn't realize that the ship stole him, and using him as an excuse to escape this evil government, military government, whatever, and they flee. So they flee, and they're being chased by the enemy. And since the ship is an experimental ship, it has like experimental technology, and they're always one step ahead of the enemy, the evil, empire, as it were, this militaristic empire that's after them. So a lot of it is like, from the enemy point of view, is that he's the Captain Ahab, and they are the Moby Dick to his Ahab. So with the main antagonist, he's the Captain Ahab kind of character, the whole thing. While these guys, like the main characters, just having fun. And then it becomes more like Tenchi Muyo, because I end up adding characters that I've written when I was in college and such, and I just kind of threw them into the story. That were end up being more of a harem story. So after, this is still going on of them running away, they run into these other characters that end up, just a bunch of misfit characters, as it were. And they travel around the galaxy, whatever. So it's not supposed to be like scientifically accurate or anything, just meant to be a farce of a sci-fi, to be like stuck in a sci-fi, universe, but to be a comedy, but not to do is be really stupid, but to be more in line of the harem type of stories, as it were, because they all kind of hang around the main male human character. That's kind of it, So a lot of wackiness and ensuing mayhem exists, and I have little, more serious story arcs that get developed and such. But primarily, it's a comedy. That's it. It's not meant to take itself serious. It's basically unserious comedic characters in a very serious, hard sci-fi story world, where they literally break the rules of their world's, their universe's reality of, their sci-fi reality on purpose, So, yeah, I wanted to be as nutty as possible and had a lot of other fantastic weird nonsense and kaiju story arcs and such like that. So yeah, there's a lot of that kind of nonsense. Things that I was interested in when I was a little kid and whatever. That kind of nonsense. Another story that I wanted to do is that could be part of this campaign or whatever, or could be it or whatever, is a story that is a superhero story. Think of it as like taking like the American point of view of a superhero kind of character, except in her world, superheroes don't exist. They only exist like in media, like comic books and such. That's all she knows of them because they don't exist. Neither does supervillains. None of that really exists. She starts off finding out that she has superpowers. She don't know how she got it, but first is like superhuman strength and all these other abilities kind of, you know, manifest over time. And instead of like being a supervillain, she chose to be a hero. So she only knows from comic books and TV shows and movies and anime and cartoons and shit like this. She creates her own character. The story is called Captain Sparkle Pants. The reason why I came up with that is actually because when I was creating this story and I was doing it over time in the 2000s and such, the first Flash, not Flash, the first, major, Shazam movie, So basically, the first live action Shazam movie in the 2000s and such came out, and one of the trailers where he was called Captain Sparkle Pants. And when I saw that trailer, I thought that's a great name for the character. So I kind of put that in with the story where the criminal world and also the media ends up calling her Captain Sparkle Pants because of that. And I just thought it would be a silly name, but that's not her superhero name. In the whole series, you're never going to find out what her real name is or what her superhero character name is, because I wanted to be a mystery for anybody. But like the media and the villains in this, that's what they call her, and she gets like kind of frustrated of being called that when they do recognize her as such. Yeah. But over time, she becomes a hero in her own path, in her own way, and she learns from the mistakes of comic books and media that has specified what heroes do, and their mistakes have happened. She uses that of not doing that, but she creates her own little thing and whatnot. So it's a superhero story. It's very much of a shoujo kind of story thing, but in a world that kind of stuff does not exist, and she's like the outlier that is existing, and most people just consider her as an urban myth or a vigilante or a series of vigilantes. But yeah, well, it's just one person, and a lot of it is about her dealing with her day-to-day life and her adrenaline rush of being a superhero and her becoming a superhero. That's what the story is. That's basically it, but with a lot of like the kind of ridiculousness of like Sailor Moon, having the yokai of the day, the monster of the day or the monster of the week. That's meant to be in it. So that's how it is. It's written as such, and I wanted to actually recreate it and, to have it published as such. That's why, The reason why I haven't published it of any of these kind of stories is because I didn't have the money and I lost a lot of the original artwork and the writings of it. So most of it is from memory and trying to recreate the damn stuff. So these are like kind of the more realistic of storylines that I could do. Another one that I would like to do, but I don't remember what its name is, what I came up with. But basically, it's based off of Dot Hack. It's a story about a guy that is a video game character, but he doesn't know that he is a video game character in a video game world. He ends up finding out about it and and finding out of his reality. All he knows is that his father died and he was in hiding as he grown up, and he ends up learning more about the greater world of his world and existence. And here's a kind of a twist: is that he befriends players and stuff, the real life peoples and wherever that playing this game. They think of him as just another person that's playing the game, except he has abilities that nobody has in this world. He ends up finding the truth of existence and ends up, escaping into the real world, where he meets his friends that he knew in the game and finds them in reality, and also finds out of his father, aka his creator, and finds out who he really was, and the whole thing of him searching for him and trying to find out how to get back. And he finds out that he wasn't really special, and one of his brother, which is Loki, another video game character that became sentient, that escaped much earlier, ends up being like the main villain, except you end up finding out that all he's trying to do is find out his world existence with the whole thing, and he's able to go back and forth between the two worlds. And you find out that he's not really the bad guy that the series kind of portrays him to be. He seems to be like the villain because of a lot of the stuff he does, but in his point of view, the world is against him and of his existence. So he does everything trying to do is find a way to get his brethren that are sentient like him to flee out into the real world, or to go into another video game world, or to have their video game world, the game itself, to be placed in another server that is protected, that's not going to be destroyed by the company that owns them. So he's doing everything he can to save his world, because that's what he wants, and he wants to give sentience in life to all of the characters, so they have their own virtual world of existence to be as such. That's Loki's plan. And the other thing is, if he can't move into safety and do that, get his brethren to reality, or to get them to be able to travel into other video games, MMOs and such, so they can live in those worlds for a short time until they get, deleted, or going to be deleted, and move themselves to another online game and whatnot, to basically save their existence as such, so they don't get wiped out. So he understands what life is, that he is alive, and he's doing everything he can to save his own kind. Even though in the very beginning it seems that he's very to be the villain. But over time, you end up finding out more and more about what Loki's thing is. So in the very beginning, it's more of an adventure story with the main character going along with these human characters. And there is hints that it is a video game, but you don't realize it because it's not like pointing a finger like video game. But over time, you end up finding out, especially when he gets into the main character gets into the real world, is when you realize, along with this character, what his reality really is. I'm just kind of letting people know ahead of time, this is what it is. And yeah, I was writing it after I saw was Doc Hack, because I watched Doc Hack, years prior, and I thought of creating a silly story that was very like that. I first started writing it based off of Dot Hack when I was watching it, online before it got translated and put on English. Yeah, yeah. So when it was aired in Japan, I was watching it, like the day after each episode was aired in Japan. Oh wow. So that's where that came from. I don't remember what the story was called, but I'll probably come up with a different name with it. But yeah, I have a lot of other isekai kind of stories. They're kind of very similar to Dot Hack or whatever in such a way, but also very similar to other isekais. Yeah. The other thing is that to get bits and pieces of all of my different stories and combine them into a collection as like a volume of my collected works. Just like standalone stories from different you know series of mine. To have like a collection of short stories. That's the other option that I was going for, but yeah, that's the whole thing with the manga, of the whole campaign for that. I don't know which manga I want to do, but those are like kind of my top options. Each one of them has their positives and negatives of what I should do, but the biggest thing is the cost issue of the material that I need. That's why the whole thing with the campaigning for it. Yeah, I don't want to specify too much about it because I don't want to end up somebody taking my work and copywriting it before I get to. It's like kind of fucked up. Yeah. Kind of the reason why I don't release my own music online, because of that. I want to do is copyright the stuff before I release anything to the public. So the other fundraiser I want to do, I was thinking like on GoFundMe or some other site or whatever. I'll let you know. That one is going to be basically to be a fundraiser to, basically to cover the startup cost of my career. Of actually having a proper artist career to start up, to actually officially start it up, having everything, paid for, such as like the business license and such like that, to have it all proper, to have a proper business. And also to cover the cost of the materials and the things that I need, such as like a computer, the art programs that I'll need for it, that I really want to use for like creating my graphic novels and also my animations and such. Yeah, I do use is Procreate Dreams for animation. I'm getting better with it. Not perfect, but I happen to like it. It has its own little limitations and problems, but I deal with that. I don't work on that 24/7, but still, my career is meant to be an art career. That I wanted to do is all facets of art. So basically, this is going to cover the cost for the the startup cost of the business, including whatever preceding costs for like about a year worth of cost, such as the supplies that I need, like paper and pencils and art materials and whatnot, the software that I need to use, the brand new computer, a desktop computer, not laptops or anything, something that's more stable, and also I need is a scanner and a printer, like a small printer that would work for basically to do is print up material that I need, like to make ash cans and such. Basically, little tiny comic books. You could say that it's like zines, as it were, that kind of thing. But to have my own printer for to do such a thing, So, like when I go to conventions, I could sell or give away these things and sell my other artworks and whatever, and to copyright a lot of my stories and such and whatnot. To cover a lot of the stuff ahead of time before I go to a convention, or to sell a lot of this stuff online, and to basically support me in the very beginnings, for at least to cover all the costs for the year for the business, but also to cover my own personal costs and living, as it were. So it's not going to be millions of dollars or anything like that. I figured about 30,000 to 50,000 would be the rough estimate for that. So, because with the cost of running everything, the business license, the copyrights, the mailing in, the postal stuff, and having ISBN numbers and whatnot, paying for that, paying for, online services, especially for, print, online print companies and such, like PODs, print on demands, print up my books. That's why I need is the money for all this stuff and all of the electronics I need for this. And later on would be like some musical instruments that would be affordable, so I can go along my music as well, to copyright that and to release the albums as well. A lot of it is going to be starting up of doing these things and to cover my personal expenses, because how low I want it at the beginning of it is because I'm going to be working out of my home here. So if I can cover the financial aspects, then I would be set to give my all to this without major worries. So that's the reason about the whole 30 to 50K that I am going for, So, yeah, that's kind of it. But both of them are like to finance my career. Like the first one is really for one graphic novel, but a lot of the cost is going to be eaten up of the materials that I need, such as the computer, the scanner, and such like that, and paying for electricity and whatnot like that, and the internet, and the copyrights, the ISBN, and the print on demand, other companies and such, so I can print my volumes and whatever and mail them out to my backers of which series that I'm going to finance. So basically, either one is going to help me in creating my career, as the startup cost, while giving to the people that actually backed me on this, financially backed me, of the backers and such. So that's kind of it. I'm sorry that it's long-winded. I tried making it short as possible. This is my 18th time of doing this, of recording this. I'm sorry. But yeah, I'll let you know more or less within a few days of what I decide about the whole thing. But yeah, bye.